So if all gone according to plan, this should have faded nicely into a title screen of moderation. Hello! Welcome again to another exciting chapter of Sussing It Out. I am the Suss Man, Rick Sussman. That is most of the Joker face. He's continually being covered by more and more nerd-type stuff. This is, of course, the Fortress of Nerditude, and as I mentioned before, this is Sussing It Out. Today's chapter, we're dealing with moderation. Earlier today, I was on the Facebooks, and I read a couple of stories that I found interesting. One of which, by a friend of mine, she had posted a story about a mother sort of going above and beyond the Call of Duty, I suppose, in terms of getting their child acclimated or deacclimated or unacclimated, whatever you want to call it, in regards to the Facebooks and uploading photos of them, and specifically of a daughter in a small bikini or something. I don't know. The whole point of the entire endeavor got really lost in on itself, and to be quite honest, got really weird really fast. But it led to a decent enough discussion at the bottom of the screen, that being of moderation. Why does everything in our society have to be of the extreme these days? You can either be totally in favor or totally against, but for some reason you can't just sort of ride the middle. Now, prior to my starting the M7 diet, I sort of had a diet of moderation. If I felt like eating chicken wings, I'd have some chicken wings. I wouldn't really try and go crazy. If I felt like eating at McDonald's, I would eat McDonald's, but again, you try and eat maybe once or twice a week, max, and even then, that might have been a bit much. All things in moderation, and I felt that that was a pretty decent way to live. This extended into everything else. Instead of watching 100 episodes of Top Gear in a row, I'd try and watch like 2 or 3 and then maybe try something else. Or instead of running 3 miles or something, I'd walk one. Just moderate, live a life of simple moderation. Don't go to either extreme. You don't want to eat too much, you don't want to eat too little. Maybe you want to lose a lot of weight, maybe you don't want to lose a lot of weight, maybe you just want to stay, nice and focused. But that appears to be lost in our society almost completely now. You can't live a life of simple moderation. It's almost frowned upon. You could look in all specters, from weight loss to politics to everything in between. Politically speaking, you cannot be in the middle of the road anymore. You are a Democrat, or you are a Republican, you're a liberal, or you're a conservative, and there is no in between. I have a number of friends, we no longer fit into certain political guidelines. We believe a number of things. I'm a super lib, but I really believe that we need to attack Syria, because we can't let people get killed in sarin gas. But then again, I've got other super libs who say, listen, whoever gets in charge of Syria, they're going to screw everything up anyway. There's no point in us taking sides. I'm allowed to have those opinions, though. At least I should be. But in our society, not being a moderate, or being a moderate, I should say, is horribly frowned upon. You can't do it. So I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. In fact, I think it's pretty obvious that I believe it's terrible. You should be allowed to have more than just one opinion, or 2 on a given matter. You can feel that maybe we shouldn't, going back to Syria, you should feel that maybe bombing Syria isn't the best course of action for our country, but that our country ought to do something. Or you could feel that bombing Syria is the worst idea ever, and that we shouldn't do anything. You should be allowed to have varying differences of opinion, but it's not considered cool or proper or just or any of these other adjectives in our day and age to have a simple thought about something. Your thought must be extreme. Your mindset has to be direct. You cannot waver either way. I don't know where this started. I only recently noticed. But it is certainly to our detriment. If we continue on this same frame of thought, all things becoming just black and just white and nothing in between, there's no telling how much damage we could potentially do to our society like this. Why have we so greatly adventured away from moderation? Why has it become so terrible, so taboo to just ride the middle? Is that so awful? Is it so horrific to just be cool with where you are? The status quo in many ways is the worst thing to happen. I think the status quo in Congress, not so great. But I think the status quo in general life overall, because the status quo in such a big thing like life can fit so many little things. So there it is. Moderation. If you're not practicing it in something, maybe you ought to be. Just because you don't have to get drunk to have a drink. You don't need to be drunk all the time if you enjoy beer. I have a beer every couple of weeks, maybe. A glass of wine for dinner is not the sign of alcoholism. It's the sign of a good moderation. You don't want to be a smoker? Fine, but maybe you should try, a little tobacco once in a great while. Trying a little something. Maybe you find out you enjoy a little tobacco. Tobacco in moderation may not kill you. Tobacco in not moderation, but a constant. Cigarettes in general in a constant. Yeah, they'll kill you. They'll kill you in a heartbeat. Moderation. We need to get back to it. That's my opinion. I'd like to see what you have to say. Thank you again for listening. This has been, I believe, chapter 16, chapter 18 of Sussing It Out. We are sussing out the term moderation and what has happened to our society and why it is no longer a viable solution. I'll be talking to you guys real soon. One last thing, if you haven't figured it out, this week's nail, I posted it on the Facebook, is a Vikings logo. Football season has started. We'll be sussing out fantasy football next, because I'm sure there's ones and ones of you out there who really want to hear me talk about fantasy football. Be talking to you guys real soon. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for listening.